You're listening to Radio Flange Goblet, and up next it's the After Movie Diner, where we guarantee you will grow an extra nipple or your money back. Yes, hello deadites and deadettes for this extra special episode of the After Movie Diner, episode 199. Yes, we are simply one episode away from the big 200th celebration of this ridiculous podcast. And on this week's show, it is all Ash versus Evil Dead all the time. You cannot escape ashiness and evil deadiness being spilled and splashed all over the place, as quite right it should be. We have two excellent guests, Carl Polling and James Saito, who I will be introducing very, very shortly. And I want you to know, the happy listener, that the After Movie Diner, or aftermoviediner.com, is your place for all Ash vs. Evil Dead stuff. We've got Season 1 reviewed in this show. We've got Season 2 written reviews and video reviews coming up on the website this weekend. We have all sorts of write-ups and exclusives and hopefully interviews down the line. So, if you love Ash vs. Evil Dead, if you want Ash vs. Evil Dead around the clock, then bookmark www.aftermoviediner.com, and I will guarantee I will bring you as much Ash vs. Evil Dead and Evil Dead related stuff that you can handle. We also have great cult, genre, Americana, all sorts of great stuff on the website. Hammer horror reviews, you name it. The website is awesome, so check us out. Anyway, without further ado, let's go to Ash vs. Evil Dead, shall we? I love that idea.
My uncle is a shaman. When I was a kid, he would say, evil is always waiting in the shadows, and only one man would rise to stand against it.
Yeah, looking good. Looking sweet.
What the hell?
Pablo, I'm gonna tell you something I've never told anyone. 30 years ago, my friends and I spent the night at a cabin. We found the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead. Certain passages were recited. It awoke something in the woods. Something evil. I was the only one to escape. But now, the evil has found me. First thing I gotta do is see a guy about a book. There must be some spell I can say to undo all this. The other first thing I gotta do is some cardio, because my heart is jackhammering like a quarterback on prom night. Here's the plan. We bust in there, fight through the carnage, let the boomstick do the talking. Things get hairy, use your bottle.
I don't think it's a very good weapon, Jefe. He had to stab like 50 times.
I was sharpening it for you. Now, come on. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's tango, bitch. Fuck.
Who the hell are you? I'm your new best friend.
Yo, Granny. Let's go. I'm not a grief counselor, but if it's any consolation, you're kind of like a young me. Deadites ruined your life, and you're hot as hell.
You know they were Jewish, right?
I did not. Wish you could have said something before I made those dumb crosses, but Okay.
Groovy.
He is the co-host of one of the greatest podcasts ever to grace the internet, Bloodbaths and Broomsticks, which has won 18 podcast Emmys, which is a thing that I just made up just now. He knows who runs Bartertown. He's a friend to the little people. He's the originator of the Pleasancing. He's the head of the Spookies fan club. He survived the terror of neck AIDS, and he knows his Evil Dead like he knows his cheeseburger shepherd's pie inside and out. I am happy and proud to welcome back to the After Movie Diner, Kyle Polling. Hello, sir.
You made me sound 100 times better than I actually am. Our podcast is the most unprofessional, scantily dropped. Maybe you'll get one in a week. Maybe you'll get one every 2 weeks. Podcast on the planet. But yes, I do love the little people, and I have survived neck AIDS.
Yeah. You survived neck AIDS and love the Pookies. That cannot be denied. And everyone listening to this podcast, once they're done listening to it, should go find Spookies and watch it, own it, embrace it, love it in any way they possibly can. So you and I, Kyle, I think we're both big lovers of the Evil Dead franchise, the original 3, the Evil Dead 2 especially. Am I right?
Absolutely. 100%.
100%. And the running joke with Kyle and Tim is that they have been trying to force me to watch the Evil Dead remake, so much so that they got a free...
It's not that bad, John.
They got a free poster and signed it as if it was signed by the cast. And then they got a DVD-R of the movie, and they sent it through to me. They spent postage and packing to send this movie to me, and I still refuse to watch it.
Yes. And if you notice, I spelled my own name wrong.
Yeah. But that's
which
part
is
of the
bizarre
charm.
because I have an Evil Dead 2 poster signed by Danny Hicks in which he spelled my name, Kyle, wrong.
Wow. Okay, then.
He was very drunk.
Did he spell? He was absolutely wasted. But yeah, if people don't know, Kyle and Tim, Bloodbaths and Broomsticks, great show, been on there a bunch. We all met up in Horror Realm over a year ago, and hopefully I will be back in Pittsburgh in March. That's the plan. But since I think since we've spoken, or certainly since we've had a chance to like sit down and really hammer out our feelings on it, Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1 has been broadcast and now released on Blu-ray. And with Season 2 on the horizon on October 2nd, I thought, what a great week to get Kyle in here and talk about the first season and just about our Evil Dead fandom in general, to piggyback on the article that I put on the website earlier this month.
Sounds great.
Did you see that article at all, dude? I basically tracked my Evil Dead and Bruce fandom all the way through from the very beginning of seeing Army of Darkness when I was a teen, early kid.
No, I did not.
All right. So I tracked my fandom all the way from Army of Darkness in 1993 when I first saw it on the VH, all the way through to now, via the rocky path which was falling out of love with Bruce because of his increasing douchiness at conventions, then the Evil Dead remake, and then his support of the Evil Dead remake by saying that it was all our fans' fault, which is kind of a piece of shit.
He really did some victim blaming there.
Yeah, he really did. He really did, and I didn't like that at all. But time passed, and essentially, to be completely honest, I fell in love all over again. And my current girlfriend, who is awesome, is a big Bruce and Evil Dead fan. And so we started to watch a few Bruce films that she hadn't seen before, or maybe had only seen once before. And I was like, that kind of rekindled my love. And then Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1 started to broadcast just as we got together. So we watched that for 10 weeks in a row. So that kind of rekindled it a bit more. And then And then now with the season 2 trailers coming out, and with Ash for President website up and running, and with the Blu-ray coming out, I'm now on like the Air Force One of fandom. I'm right back there.
Back in the saddle?
Back in the saddle, both engines raring. And
well, see, I've always, from you, speaking about his douchiness at conventions and watching shit on YouTube where he's at conventions is just, that would just stick. He'd have a panel and be an asshole, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think the thing is that I had been a fan of his long enough to know he didn't always do that. You know what I mean? Like, that was a recent thing. This whole, like, dressing like Lawrence Welk and being a dick to people unnecessarily sort of... And by being a dick to people, I don't mean like his little wisecracky answers. Like, that's absolutely fine. But I actually saw him be an out-and-out fucking dick to some people on YouTube and at conventions. And I was just like, I've sort of had enough of this, dude. Like, you were the king of B-movies for a reason. You were kind of humble, cool, but you could turn it on if you needed to. You were nice to your fans. You appreciated your fans. You made a documentary about them. In the documentary, by the way, he says, I wouldn't know a Hugo Boss suit if it hit me in the face. Cut forward 5 years, and he's fucking dressing like a lounge singer in probably $300 suits, so, or $500 suits even. I don't know how much these things cost. But,
he sure looks like Wayne Newton.
Right? So the whole thing to me was just, Burn Notice got him some money and got him some success, because that was like before The Walking Dead started, or as The Walking Dead started, Burn Notice was the most successful show on cable. Like, it had like millions of viewers. And so, he became a bit of a middle of America household name at that point. Like, obviously he was a household name in fanboys everywhere, but like, he became a sort of, middle-aged, midwife, middle of America, whatever you want to call it, kind of name.
Yeah, at that point, I think my mom knew who he was.
Right. And so, I mean, not to shit on those people, I'm just saying, like, he hadn't been known to those people before, is all I'm saying. I'm not shitting on them. And I just sort of saw it go to his head a little bit, and I always hoped that it wouldn't do, and it sort of did. But for some reason, the panels and the interviews I've seen him do for Ash vs. Evil Dead, he feels like he's found a balance between who he used to be and the shtick. So he's kind of stopped being as much of a dick anymore, I think. I think he's kind of found a middle ground, I think.
I don't know. I've just always taken it for granted listening to you. Just like I've met everybody else. I've not met Bruce Campbell, and I don't think I would.
Right.
And sometimes it's not a wise thing to meet your heroes, even though, they disappoint you, and I don't think I would like that, so I just have always avoided him.
Yeah, I mean, I met him twice, and he was the 2 times I met him, he was lovely. It's more the Q&As that he does, but it's, it is what it is, and he's turned it around, and my love is back full force for the Bruce and for the Evil Dead. And so let's just talk Ash versus Evil Dead Season 1. So do you remember, dude, like when it was announced, but before you'd even seen maybe a trailer for it, what was your initial feeling?
Well, me and Tim, I think we had both the same reaction because, we do news segments on our show, and it was always like, well, hey, they've announced an Exorcist series, and they've announced what was the one that's been going around forever has been Nightbreed, the TV show. And then, Evil Dead, Ash versus Evil Dead comes along, and we're like, yeah, you know what? This sounds like some websites just maybe making some stuff up. And we kind of, I didn't believe it. But then, Stars picked it up, and I was like, well, I got Stars. I like this. And I'm honestly shocked none of those, well, The Exorcist has, but it looks terrible.
Yeah, it looks like I'm a stubbly, sexy exorcist. You're like, fuck off.
And they actually did it. And we were surprised and shocked as hell that, an internet rumor actually came true.
But what was your feeling about taking what had been a film series and making a TV show out of it? Did that bother you, or were you just like, yay, more Evil Dead?
I think the only thing I wanted was, I think we said, if Bruce is not involved, don't bother.
Right.
And if Sam Raimi's not involved, don't bother. And, for more or less, Raimi is involved. I'm sure he executive produces or produces this show, and he did the first episode, so we were on board. And when that first episode hit, we were like, yep, that's Raimi. That's his sensibilities behind the camera. That's Bruce being Ash. It's old. He's old Ash. We like it. We like it a lot. And we were on board.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it this way, because initially I was a little. I was happy that they were doing something with the Evil Dead, and that Bruce, Sam, and Rob were doing something. That was my initial feeling. I was just like, cool. Yeah. Like, I just want those guys to work together again. And honestly, I would have, considering Sam, it's not like Sam is gearing up to do anything movie-wise right now. I would have been much happier had Sam just done the first season. You know what I mean? Like, just fucking done it. Like, done it like David Lynch is doing with the Twin Peaks. Like, just fucking do it. Like, do 10 episodes. It's 5 hours worth of stuff. Just do it. You don't have to edit it. You don't have to whatever. But okay. I mean, they did a 45-minute first episode with... it was Raimi directing, Tappert producing. Ivan and Sam wrote the screenplay for that first one. Bruce is Ash again, and you've even got Bob Murawski, who is now like a very famous editor, but I believe cut his teeth on Army of Darkness. He edited that first episode. So, like, you've got the whole gang back together, clearly, as much as we're ever going to have that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing. So, as more... For me, I was nervous, trepidatious, but I was kind of happy and intrigued. And then the more information we got through and the more clips I saw, the more I was like, okay, first of all, this is something I definitely have to watch. And secondly, this might even be something that I'm going to enjoy. You know what I mean? And then...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so when the first episode aired... And I watched it, I was definitely kind of 50-50 on that first episode. And it's sort of, like, the first episode kind of is how I feel about the whole series overall. Because there were good episodes, lesser good episodes, back and forth. But ultimately my feeling is, it's not... like, I'd seen Bruce do a whole bunch of stuff in movies, like the Sci-Fi Channel movies and various other stuff, where it was, and even in Burn Notice, where it was close but no cigar. Like, he was being Bruce, but not as best as we could expect it. You know what I mean? And season 1 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, when I first saw it, those 10 weeks that it first aired, I felt very much like this is the closest I've seen Bruce do, and certainly as the series went on, I think he gets more and more and more comfortable being Ash as the series goes on. So I certainly prefer the end of the series more than I prefer the opening, but it was the closest we were going to get, and for whatever reason, I was able to put my grumbly, mumbly... naysaying fanboy bullshit to the back of my brain and just enjoy it. Like, it was good enough and great enough that I could, like, set aside the grumbles I'd had for, almost 5 years about the fact that Raimi wasn't casting him in the lead, the fact that he wasn't in Drag Me to Hell, the fact that Raimi was doing fucking the Wizard of Oz sequel that nobody asked for, or prequel rather. The fact
well, you got to remember, he kept throwing out, we're going to get Army of Darkness 2. No, right. We're going to get Evil Dead 4. And this has been going on for 10 years.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, we don't even have to go into that, but like, since like the late 90s and Bruce was routinely appearing at conventions and at film screenings and stuff. And since, like, Empire, the magazine in the UK, the film magazine, used to interview Raimi a lot as he was doing, like, Simple Plan and For the Love of the Game and those movies. Like, every time he was interviewed and every time Bruce was interviewed, they were asked about Evil Dead 4. And every time they came up with more bullshit about it. Mm-hmm. Just for decades. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like, and it's funny because he's actually subsequently said about Evil Dead 4, oh, yeah, I lied about it, I twisted the story about it, I made stuff up, I deflected. Like, he's admitted it subsequently. And I just kind of, you do that long enough and it just kind of rubs people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
But the success of the series for me is that I've been able to look past all that and I've finally got, maybe it's because I'm getting older, dude, but I finally got to a point where I can enjoy it all for what it is. And I don't have the expectations that I used to have of Bruce. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Army of Darkness, Bubba Hotep, even some little bits in like Mind Warp and Moontrap and Sundown and films like that. I just always had that expectation of Bruce and always had that like fan need for him to be his Army of Darkness or Bubba Hotep self. And it never fully came to pass.
Right, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so I think that the first series kind of gives us as close as we're going to get on that. And I think I've made peace with that. And I think I've been able to enjoy each episode for what it is, you know?
Do you think, obviously this series is a huge success. Do you think that will spurn the money-hungry Bruce Campbell? I'm sure Raimi's got, like, money to burn. He doesn't care.
Right.
But do you think we will now get an Evil Dead 4?
I mean, anything's possible. Absolutely anything is possible. I think that the series is a huge success in terms of conventions, fans, critics, but I don't know how successful it's actually being for like Stars and Stars subscriptions. I don't think it gets a huge viewership, does it? It's like 1.3 million or something.
I've never paid attention to that. I don't know.
And I know that's only like people who watched it on the night. I know obviously like people will see it if they ever put it up on Netflix, or people will see it if they bought the Blu-ray and stuff. I mean, I know, for example, Best Buy, who put out the Steel Tin edition, special edition of the Blu-ray, I had to go to 3 Best Buys in New York City at 8:30 in the morning. This was the day it came out. To try and find one. Like, it was already selling out. One woman told me that a guy went in and bought 4 of them. So, like...
he was throwing those on eBay later that day.
Of course, right? He's like, I buy this for $29 and I'm going to sell it for $60 on eBay when they sell out. So I know that sold out in a heartbeat and is now a collector's item. I know that... fan groups and fan sites are popping up all over the place. And, I mean, I think it's being successful, but not in a Walking Dead type way. Not in a like...
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not going to have Chris Hardwick talk about this fucking show on...
Thank God.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I like what Starz is doing with it. I mean, it's odd to me that I'm not seeing billboards or ads for Season 2, whereas I did for Season 1. But then I'm not seeing ads or billboards for that Patrick Stewart Blunt Talk thing that Starz shows either. So it might not be just an Ash vs. Evil Dead. It might just be a Starz thing where they're like, we're not going to do print ads anymore. I don't know. And I don't know how successful it's been. I know that, for example, the second series was greenlit straight away, but we haven't heard anything about series 3 or 4 yet, you know? And I suppose Starz are waiting to see if they get like 1 million subscribers on October 1st, the day before season 2 airs.
I think that's a really stupid idea on their part, man.
First of all, like, the funny thing about this is that Bruce and Sam keep saying that Ash vs. Evil Dead is on Starz because they allow them to do everything in terms of, like, no censorship or anything like that.
Absolutely, yeah. You wouldn't see this on AMC or something.
Right, and that's absolutely true. Right? That's absolutely true. Like,
yeah.
Like Star, but also the reason why it's Starz and it's not HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, or any of those other ones is because Starz owns Anchor Bay, and Anchor Bay owns all the Evil Dead movies. So they're able. There's also that thing that they're able to show clips of Evil Dead 1 and 2 because Anchor Bay own them, and Anchor Bay is owned by Starz. So it's like, it's not just because they can do anything on there. And obviously also because Spartacus and Rob Tappert and Sam Raimi's previous adult shows were on Stars as well, right? I think.
Oh, I didn't know that was them.
Mm-hmm. That was like their adult version of Xena and Hercules, essentially.
Okay. I think I just got Rome mixed up with Spartacus.
Oh, yeah. No, Rome was HBO, and then Spartacus was like the Stars knockoff.
All I remember was I watched, like, I'm trying not to be crude on your show, but all I remember is I watched one episode, and they were in the bar, and it was just like a giant orgy.
Oh, yeah, no, you can be crude, dude. Like, Lucy Lawless is topless, and that Scottish dude from Four Weddings and a Funeral, I forget his name, was, like, fucking her from behind and stuff. Like, it was all really... It was, like, it
was funny because they were just having a conversation. There would be, like, people doing it in the background.
Yeah, right. It's sort of like...
Okay.
It was sort of like Eyes Wide Shut, the TV show.
Uh-huh, it was.
And here's a sequence where we walk through some Roman bars full of people fucking.
They got Kubrick on tap just to film those bar scenes.
They've got, like, the ghost of Kubrick comes in, and he's just like, can we get more titties? I need more titties. That's clearly what was happening. And, you know, if there's any aspect of the Ash vs. Evil Dead franchise that I'm not enjoying, it's the sex jokes. Because
it gets a little grating.
It was kind of never part of the Evil Dead franchise. So, but saying that, however, just like Ash changes from Evil Dead 1 to Evil Dead 2 and then Evil Dead 2 to Army of Darkness, the Ash in Ash vs. Evil Dead feels like he's even goofier. It's like it's Army of Darkness Ash pushed way beyond the bounds. You know what I mean? Like, he's even dumber, even...
He's definitely feeling the residual effects of time travel and fighting skeletons. And,
right.
Like, his grip on reality is only held together by, like, bong hits.
And I think my only problem about that, and this would be if I put my critic hat on, is the drinking, the doing marijuana, the, like, having cheap sex in bathrooms. That would all be fine if there was a bit more of a PTSD angle, like if it was him really trying to drown his sorrows, which it is, but at the same time, like, Bruce is playing it so goofy that it's not just that it's a surface thing and there's somehow depth beneath. It's just like Ash is all surface. And I think that the TV show would be slightly better if there was just a little bit of a human character underneath Ash's stupidity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you watch the Ash from Evil Dead 2 and you don't see that guy, like, banging chicks in the bathroom of bars.
Right.
But I bought into it.
Right.
I liked it.
And I think if you watch it as 1, 2, 3, and then this one, they've just dialed him up yet again. You know what I mean? Like, he's gone from being, you know, goofy and braggart and idiot in Army of Darkness to even more that, with 20 years of age and 20 years of, as you say, like, booze and bong hits, you know? And that's fine. It's not my Evil Dead, but it's absolutely fine, and I've kind of accepted it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, but I think we'll talk about it later. It becomes our Evil Dead in the last 3 episodes.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Like, completely and utterly. And what I will say about the show is that unlike almost any remake, reboot, reimagining, and or TV series you can name that was based on a movie in the last 10 years, this is at least written by and made by people who not only love the original movies, but understand them. Like, I never felt at any point that I'm watching something and I'm like, okay, you just don't understand this franchise. Everything I watch, I'm like, oh, I understand where you've got that from. You know what I mean? Even the stuff I don't 100% love.
As for these first episodes, what did you think of the first one with Raimi?
Right. So
and everyone.
The first one, this will make you laugh, but my favorite bit in the whole of the first episode is the bit with the light bulbs. That's my absolute favorite bit, because to me, that's like classic Ash Raimi camp. Yeah. Like when he's...
And I love that, and I love the shadows moving through the curtains.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no, I meant from, like, the goof standpoint. Like, I loved that bit. I loved the little Debbie doll or whatever it was biting his face. I liked...
Did it throw you... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, dude. I was just trying to think of that first episode.
Did it throw you off that they were not mentioning Army of Darkness whatsoever?
No, that doesn't affect me. I understand it. Like, I would rather an Evil Dead series that at least can acknowledge 1 and 2 and at least maintain the backstory of the character. Because at the end of the day, if you the only way you can accept this series is if you go from the supermarket ending of Army of Darkness, right?
Right, yeah.
Because they never got to do Ash in the future, which is what they wanted to do with Army of Darkness 2, was going to be like Ash in the future with robots or whatever. Well, that was one of the ideas they were going to do. So if you can't include that ending. So if you logically go from the ending where he comes back and he's Captain Supermarket, then this completely follows on from that. It completely follows on from that. I don't need him to go, oh, I was fired from Esmar, or I used to be king, or whatever. Like, I don't need him saying that. And I understand that in the 20 years from the Captain Supermarket ending of Army of Darkness to now, that he has been, you know, he's been in a bunch of adventures, and maybe they'll get into that in later series, I don't know. But he's also got to a point where, you know, I'm too old for this shit, and I'm going to bury it in the back of my mind. I'm going to lock up the book, and I'm going to do pot, and I'm going to drink beer, and I'm just going to, like, hide out. And so, no, the fact that they don't mention Army of Darkness, or the fact he doesn't turn around to Pablo and go, well, I went to the medieval ages once, like, that doesn't bother, like, no, it doesn't bother me at all. Does it bother you?
It did until Tim dug up that, I guess contractually they weren't allowed to mention it because they didn't own the rights or something like that. And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe like when he was explaining to Pablo in the knockoff Dollar Mart that he was working at, like, yeah, I used to be king, and one time I even traveled into the past. Like, that would have been okay. It's just drop that line.
Well,
but I don't know. I guess they're allowed to talk about it now.
I think this was it. I think multiple things came to play. And I don't think it's that they're allowed to talk about it now. What Bruce has said about season 2 is, as time travel was part of the film franchise anyway, they might be time traveling in the series. I think it's more... I don't know how this works, because Bruce, Sam, and Rob own the character of Ash. They own that character. And because they're on Stars, they're allowed to reference Evil Dead 1 and 2 because Anchor Bay own them, so that's absolutely fine. They can't reference Army of Darkness, but does that mean they can't even say, like, oh, I went to medieval times once? Like, they can't reference anything about, like, the medieval King Arthur or anything? Or can they just not talk about... Can they not mention Sheila and Henry the Red and King Arthur? Can they not mention those things? Like, I don't quite know how that works.
That stuff is, I don't understand rights. It's a mystery to me.
Yeah, I don't understand either. But I think this was my take on season 1, especially knowing that they are probably going to introduce time travel either at the end of season 2 or to make it a main plot point of the second half of season 2. And this is my takeaway from it. If you are... First of all, they can only show clips in flashback from Evil Dead 1 or 2, right?
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
Secondly, they're going to the cabin at the end of season 1, so they want to keep in that continuity of it being the cabin and the book and the stuff that's sort of based in Evil Dead 2 and 1. Thirdly, it's got to be a series that both plays to diehard fans but also plays to newbies, and to have to try and cumbersomely explain Army of Darkness and the plot of Army of Darkness in a series like this would be confusing to newbies. Fourthly, it's called Ash versus Evil Dead, and because Army of Darkness, a lot of people don't even know it's the sequel. I mean, fans do, but a lot of regular people wouldn't even know it was the sequel.
I don't think that. No, I've never thought that's the case. I've never, and this is why I think I don't like big Hollywood productions like all these Marvel movies and stuff. They're afraid to, I don't know, give the viewer the benefit of the doubt. Like, they have to hold their hand through everything. I don't believe you have to do that with this. The people that are going to watch this series, they know what the hell's up. They know who Bruce Campbell is. And as far, I know I'm not a, big suit at Stars or anything, but all the other people, fuck them.
No, and and dude, as a fan, I completely 100% agree. I was just giving the reasons why I think they didn't do it. I mean, it's not. It wouldn't have bothered me either way. I just think that every time they start something like this, it's always like, how do we establish not only the world but also the franchise that came before? And it's a difficult rope to walk if you are hampered by the fact you can't show clips from Army of Darkness, but also because Army of Darkness is sort of a whole other thing.
Yeah, it is.
It Ash versus Evil Dead, the season 1. It's about it's acknowledging something that happens in Evil Dead 2, but also is essentially played out in Army of Darkness, which is this idea that he is a mythical hero. The idea that he was in the book before he even found the book. Do you know what I mean? Ash was drawn in the book, so Ash was always meant to be the guy that faced them off. So the series has taken what it can do to tell the story at once. And I didn't miss Army of Darkness so much because I think if you start with that, the series is a very different thing. And I think that it's probably more wise for them to establish the world, establish Kelly and Pablo, establish that Ash is the chosen one, establish Ruby and all that. Do the cabin ending, do the book, do all that stuff. And then as season 2 kicks in, where they're all together now, everyone knows who these characters are, everyone knows how the series is going to play out, blah, 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 blah. They can now start revealing even more backstory, and you can bring Army of Darkness into it, or at least the time travel aspects and all the rest of it. You can bring that into it now once everyone is on the same page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you, but I've never thought. I think people know. I think people know what Evil Dead is.
No,
at least I'd like to think they do.
I agree, but then Ash versus Evil Dead then becomes a sequel to Army of Darkness rather than the first season of its own TV show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you're like, well, hang on a second. Because, the big thing about Evil Dead 4 for the longest fucking time was people like, well, what ending do you take? You know what I mean? So they've got round that by going, oh, it's a TV series and it takes place in this reality and let's just go from there. I'm sure there are plenty of aspects of Army of Darkness that clever writing could hint at without breaking any rules with Universal, right? I'm sure about that. But, the reason why they haven't done, and the reason why they've said about we can't reference Army of Darkness and all the rest of it, is because then it becomes Evil Dead 4. Then it becomes a follow-on. Then it becomes well, this is the next thing in the franchise. Whereas doing it as a TV show, it's just the first series of a TV show that features this character. And I think that makes it slightly easier for them.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you, dude. I think everyone knows it. I think the fans want Evil Dead 4. I completely get it. But I think considering Stars are letting them do what they're letting them do in terms of content and letting them do in terms of character, we have to kind of take what we can take. You know what I mean? And if they introduce...
I'll take this over nothing.
Right. And if they have to introduce time travel or the medieval times or whatever, I think that's also something you do once you've got the budget to do it. Like, I think if season 1 and 2 are successful and they go season 3 or 4, which I hope they do, I think they can then say to them, okay, so we've had, like The Walking Dead did in a way, but in a more interesting way. Like, the first Walking Dead series, they're at the campsite. The next Walking Dead series, they're at the farmhouse. The third Walking Dead series, they're at the prison. Like, this one, they can go the first, Evil Dead series, we end up at the cabin. The second Evil Dead series is going to take place back in Elk Grove, where Ash grew up. And then the third Evil Dead series could take place fucking in the future, in the past, or whatever. And then the fourth Evil Dead... Like, they could do what the comic books have done and have him go from portal to portal to portal and just have him go and do whatever they want to do. Because I was talking with my friend Chris the other night. If the whole plot of the thing is we've got to get the book and we've got to send the evil deadites back to hell and get rid of the book, well... all you have to do is get hold of the book and set fire to it. You know what I mean? Like, all you have to do is, like, tear the book up or blow the book up or set fire to it. Like, it gets boring if all it is about the book. But he pointed out, he said, what if they lose the book? Or what if someone grabs the book and goes through a time portal and then season 3 is them running through a different period in time trying to get the book back, and then the book gets lost in the future, and he has to, like, if that then becomes...
And then they meet up with Scott Bakula, and Scott Bakula is now Bruce Campbell.
Scott Bakula is then trapped.
Yes.
And they get back the Ziggy with the little diddly-dee Lego thing. Yeah, no, we could do that. But you know what I mean? Like, that's how you have to kind of... I had to think about it in a TV writer type way. How do we do 5 seasons of this shit? You know what I mean?
I think the first, like, the most important thing, and this is why I completely jumped off The Walking Dead after the stupid prison. I was just sick of it.
Yeah. Well, it's boring.
Oh, yeah, and everything is so goddamn serious all the time. I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a series like this, and I think they're doing it on my other favorite show, Game of Thrones, have an end point.
Right.
That's one of the most important things, and I don't know if this does yet. Of course, it's too early.
Right.
To tell. I hope it does have an end point.
Well, I'm very encouraged by the fact that season 2 was shot completely before it aired, and therefore written completely before it aired, because one of the things we found out after season 1 aired was that especially stuff like the Ruby character and especially like some of those middle episodes, they really didn't know what they were doing. They got a series of 10. They got Sam and Ivan to do the first episode. They knew they'd be heading towards the cabin, but that was kind of it. And it was written, directed, acted, and made on the fly. Whereas this...
I think that shows, too.
It does. No, it does completely. But the second series is done as a 5-hour movie, essentially, and then broken up into half-an-hour parts. And I think that is going to lead to a better viewing experience. I really do. I'm with you there. I kind of wish that I had DVR'd this and watched it all in one day. Yeah, me too. Yeah. And like once I watched it again...
I wasn't going to do that.
No, but once I watched it on Blu-ray with the Play All function...
It probably makes it probably makes it better.
It does make it better. I wish they'd done that thing on the Blu-ray where they got rid of the fucking recap from the previous week. Because I'm watching on Blu-ray.
Man, they didn't?
They didn't, but then also the commentary goes over those bits as well. So like...
Oh, well, then there's a reason. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but like, because there's like, that's the other cool thing about the Blu-ray. There's a commentary on every single episode. That's kick-ass, man. Like, that's awesome.
Pretty fucking awesome.
And I love the fact that they don't stick to strictly 30 minutes. Like, the first episode's 45 minutes. One of the last 3 episodes is like 40 minutes. Another one is like 32 minutes. Like, they're doing what they need to do. And the last sort of thing I would say as an overall comment is, before I started the show, I was worried about sidekicks, and I was worried about it being half an hour. Because I was really that would bother me.
The half an hour thing, I still don't like it. Because as soon as the episode gets going, it's over.
Right, except that Campbell had a very good point about it. And that is, it keeps the pace up. Meaning,
it's true.
If you had a 1-hour episode that had to do the same thing that a 30-minute episode did, in other words, this is the story we're telling and we have an hour to tell it, the episodes would get very saggy very quickly. But because they only have 30 minutes to tell the story, they can kind of be like, boom, 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 here's the next thing, here's the next thing. And you don't stop and suddenly think, hang on a second, this is ludicrous. You just kind of get dragged along with it. And
Since we're talking about the structure of it, because it seemed to me like it was very much a 3-act thing. Like the first 3 episodes went together, then the next 3 episodes were part of another thing, and definitely the last 3 episodes all go together when they reach the cabin. It's exactly like you were talking about, like the first 4 episodes are the establishing stuff, then they get to the bookshop. Then they go to the worst part of the series, I think, was that stupid military militia that Ash knows that went. And I just thought that was my problem. I don't like the middle of this series at all because it's like it just with all this militia stuff, it went nowhere, and I don't think like they even knew. It seemed to me like all that stuff they just threw in there as filler.
Except
get
that
out of these 10 episodes.
Yeah, except that I feel like
I don't think do you think you'll ever see the militia people back?
Oh no, but I don't think that was the point of it. I think the point of that militia episode was how do we because you've got so this is how it actually breaks down. You've got the first 3 episodes sort of establish it. And then you've got the next 2 episodes are the Brujo episodes where he takes is it peyote or whatever he takes, and has the acid trip that kind of
the Jacksonville stuff.
Right, explains sort of a lot about who he is, where they're going. Kelly and Pablo sort of finally see the power of the Evil Dead. They're both sort of Kelly is possessed by it, and then Pablo has to deal with it, and da-da-da-da-da. So that's a whole, like, sort of solidifying the team thing. You've also got the whole thing that you've got the cop who has her, like, the cop episodes are really 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, where we're establishing her as an enemy, then we're establishing her as realizing what's going on, then we're establishing her as Ash's possible love interest, and then we're killing her off. You know what I mean? Like, that's her arc. So all that is going on, and I honestly think that you then get the 2 episodes. You've got the Killer of Killers and Fire in the Hole, which is basically what it breaks down as the diner episode and the militia episode, which are sort of back-to-back episodes. And first of all, I think the Killer of Killers episode is the episode where you have kind of a breather. You know what I mean? Like the first 5 have kind of been like, whoa, where are we? What's happening? Oh my God, that's happening? Okay, we're going there. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Like it's all like that. And at the beginning of the Killer of Killers, it's like the middle point of the series. They're taking a deep breath and they're saying, okay, what is going to inform the second half of this series? We've got to get to the cabin. We've got to destroy the book. We've got to do this. We've got to do that, right? And then they throw in that action sequence at the end, which is actually kind of a cool action sequence. But I agree with you, like, nothing much happens in that episode in terms of overall plot, but it's that midway point where everyone takes a deep breath. Do you know what I mean?
That episode, the whole militia thing just it doesn't seem to fit for me.
Well, the militia
I don't buy any of that.
The militia episode is purely in there to strengthen all the characters. Like, they all get character moments in there. Ash gets a character moment, Kelly gets a character moment, Pablo gets a character moment, and then Fisher and Bruce finally, like, accept each other. And I think I agree with you that, like, maybe the militia setting wasn't the greatest thing, but I also love the fight. I love the fight with Lem down in the mine or whatever that's meant to be, like, downstairs. Like, I love that fight, the way it's lit, the way it's done, the fact that they're, like, handcuffed together. Like, that's a great sequence. And I just think to myself that there are stuff in those episodes, both Killer of Killers and Fire in the Hole, that inform the characters so that when you get to the last 3 episodes, it makes sense that Kelly is kick-ass and has a machine gun. It makes sense that Fisher shows up and tries to help Ash out. It makes sense that Fisher would fall for Bad Ash initially until she realizes what's going on.
Yeah.
It makes sense that, like, Pablo is the naive one who's going to be, like, tormented by Ruby and stuff. Like, all the stuff that we learn in those somewhat questionable middle episodes do at least character-wise play into the last 3. And I think you have to put those moments in somewhere. You might not have liked where they put them in. Like, you would have liked a more linear...
With those 2 episodes, I didn't like them at all. I'm almost checked out.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, no. But then at the episode, at the end of the Fire in the Hole episode, is the best scene, I think, in the entire series, with just his hand crawling back to the cabin.
Right.
And it's so Evil Dead 2. It's like, just that 10 seconds, I'm back in. Holy shit, finally. Oh my God, this is what I've wanted since episode 2.
But how amazing was the redo of the cabin? Like, how just fucking incredible. Like, I have seen those movies 1,000,000 times each, and I could not find fault with the cabin, dude.
Nope.
Like,
Perfect.
They even had the piano in there, and they had the kitchen, like, perfectly done. They had the bullet holes in the door. They had, like everything, man. Like, it was unbelievably accurate.
A fucking time machine and went back in time and just what we're going to film now at the high school where we had the cabin built in part 2.
Right, but also Bruce noticed something as well. He was saying, like, you know how one side of the living room has wood slats and the other side of the living room has, like, a proper plastered wall?
Yeah,
he's
like a gross cream plaster. Yeah.
He's like, that's because when we got to the original cabin in Evil Dead 1, the living room wasn't big enough, and we knocked down a wall between 2 rooms to make that big main room that is now, like, the famous feature of the cabin. They even redid that. They redid, like, the 2 different wall types in the main room. Like,
they
it's
did a
incredible.
phenomenal goddamn job.
They really did. And I have to say, like, I know what you mean about the middle 2 episodes, because they don't take place, because they're the road trip episodes, right? They're like, we're going to go to this place and kill deadites, and then we're going to go to this place and kill deadites, and along the way we're going to have some character moments, but really all we're doing is killing deadites. Like, because they're those episodes, I agree with you, but that they're odd. But also, I didn't necessarily mind that. Like, the 2 I actually like the least are the Brujo episodes. Like, they're the ones.
I love those ones.
They're the ones where I'm a bit like, Ash has an acid trip. Like, I don't know about this, dude. Like, I really don't like it. It kind of, I think I liked them more the second viewing when I did the Blu-ray and I watched them back to back. I definitely liked them more. And the series does hold together a lot better when you watch them all back to back. But, like, when I first watched them, they were the ones, like, to me, the first 2 were great, or good enough. The Books from Beyond was okay because I loved the demon. I thought they did a really great job with that like
was
demon,
cool.
That like shivery demon. And I love the fact that all it took was Ash slightly slipping into the sand, and then it was all fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. Also, I love. It really freaked me out when the demon was like trying to destroy Ash's brain, and you saw like his skull and stuff through the skin. Like, I really loved that. You know what I mean? Like, I really thought that was cool. And then actually, when I first watched the series, the Brujo episode, the host episode, Not Interested, it was the action sequence in the diner where he's like flinging people around and chopping heads off, and she's putting the woman's face into a meat slicer. That was kind of when
was fucking great.
Yeah, that's when, like, for me, the series picked back up again. I love the fight with Lem in the basement of the militia hideout. I agree that none of the other militia stuff makes any sense, but like the fight with him, it's him and Fisher handcuffed together, and they're fighting the crazy deadite with the long hair, with his shirt off, holding like the flare in his hand and stuff. Like that that to me was like a really cool fight. And I like the fact that at the end, Ash was, I'm going to do it alone. Like, I'm going to go it alone.
When he ditches them?
Yeah, when he ditches them. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, and that establishes something. And then when you go back to the cabin, dude, like, I was just, this is, if all they ever did, if they only ever got one more series, if all they ever did was series 1 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, Ashes to Ashes and Bound in Flesh and The Dark One, the last 3 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead,
I was giddy as a schoolgirl watching those 3 episodes.
That is my Evil Dead 4, dude. That is my Evil Dead 4. They don't need to do anything more. Like, you got Ash fighting Evil Ash, which was fucking hilarious.
Yep.
You had Ash versus Ruby and Pablo getting the book on his face and all that. And then you had The Dark One, in which it goes totally nuts, and you have Kelly covered in blood, machine gunning things, trying to set fire to the cabin, while the blonde girl inside is getting, like, leeches and cockroaches all over her and fucking nails in her face and stuff. Meanwhile, downstairs, Pablo is, like, belching up demon babies.
Yep.
And then Bruce gets to fight a demon baby, and he gets to do that thing which I fucking love, which is when Ash, like, grumbles to himself and then feels something on his back. So he's like, oh, you little demon baby. And then he goes, ding, and stops, and then the fucking baby comes up. That to me, I'm just like, okay, you've given me my Evil Dead 4. Like, fuck, I don't care if anything else ever happens. Fucking do a sequel to the remake and a remake of the sequel and fucking anything else. You've given me my fucking Evil Dead 4. Like, I was so happy.
And you had appearances from people from the old series.
Yes.
I always get all 3 of them mixed up. Was it Ellen Samwise in the head Vice?
No, it's not. And it's not the same actor either, but she looks exactly like her. I thought it was her. No, dude, it looks exactly like her, but it's that's Denise Bixler, is it, from Part 2, who has the head in the vice? I think so.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the wrong. Yes, you're right.
I think it's Denise Bixler, the one who went on and married Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, she got goots.
She got goots, dude.
Pulled down the goot.
Denise Bixler, yeah. Denise Bixler plays Linda in the second one.
I'm glad she's pulling in Lavalantula money then.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think they're still married. I think they were married once.
Well, she's getting 50% of that Lavalantula ducats.
She's getting some of that sweet, sweet Sci-Fi Channel ducats.
Yep.
But yeah, so I was once the season finished, I just stood up and applauded. Like,
yep.
It's just like, this is the greatest. Like, the whole of season 2 should just be that.
I was like, okay, I'm glad I stuck around for the 2 episodes I didn't like, because boy, you really went out on a high note in the last 3 episodes. I loved every goddamn minute of it. Even the little demon babies, they don't make sense in Evil. You've never seen something like that, but I loved them because it was just Ash reacting to, like, weird shit going on.
Yeah, and that's all it needs to. That's all it needs to be. All it needs to be is throw shit at Bruce, torment Bruce, and have him react to stuff. That's all it needs to be.
I think that's the joy of all the movies in the series.
Yeah, but it's also
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, it's all the little things that he does though. Like my favorite scene in the whole series is Ash in the bottom of the cabin. He's already fought the demon baby, and he does that little fucking, and then, like, as the demon baby crawls up his back, he goes dink and, like, looks behind him, and then you take a Sam Raimi beat, and then it's as the demon baby attacks him. That's all I need. Just do that.
Yeah. And you could see like behind the scenes pictures of people. Well, not that baby, but in the first episode, the little doll that attacks him. You can see, that's just on a stick. Right. And at the end of the stick is Sam Raimi just beating the shit out of Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, I think that okay, so we'll go through that in a minute. But in terms of, like, the demon babies, or in terms of, like, the deadites in general, we've already established in the series that deadites can be skeletons, they can be pit hags, they can be your friends possessed, they can be trees and animals. They can be whirling things going through the woodland or through the countryside. So, like, them also being hollow-eyed demon babies, that doesn't bother me. Like, it could be anything, right? So that's fine.
As Jon Cross is concerned, they can't be heroin-addicted 20-year-olds.
No.
Models. And,
they can't be. They can't be that. And also, I don't know the name of the company that does the special effects, but fucking bravo for going with the KNB style design deadites with the cheekbones and
the white eyes. They nail and the sunken cheeks. And, they nailed that.
They genuinely have, and to use the same process on the voice that they use, like every time one of the people gets possessed and they do the demon voice, it is the voice. Like, they've done it so well. And I think as a fan of the original 3 movies, the fact that we get the cabin, the fact that we get Bruce, the fact that they do that makeup that looks just like the Deadites, the fact that they've got the same fucking voice, like, I love that. I don't need as many, like, there's a lot of winks to the movies all the way through in terms of like, oh, look, we're referencing the movies. I don't necessarily need that, but I need the Deadites to look like Deadites. I need them to sound like Deadites, and I need that if you're going to go to the cabin or if they go back to the castle from Army of Darkness or whatever it is, that it looked like it did in the movie. And that's what we're getting, which is what I'm happy about.
Yeah, bravo, people.
So that's very, very cool. So very quickly then, I mean, the other things to talk about are like... And I think they're going to go even more practical effects with the second series. Because like I say, I think they took more time over the second series. I think by the second series, they know what this show is. And I think that they have taken more time in making it and all the rest of it. But the one thing that dismayed me, or one of the things that dismayed me about the first episode was the amount of CGI in there, which...
sure was a lot, yeah.
Which, thankfully, has not really been repeated either through the rest of the first series or what I've seen of Series 2. Do
you think that's because they only had Raimi for, like, so long?
Yeah, maybe. And also maybe because I think it wasn't a machine yet. Like, TV series are a machine. You know, you hunker down, you go, okay, we got 10 of these things to do, or we got 24 of these things to do, or whatever it is. And people don't kind of get their game on until like halfway through a series. So although I understand why Raimi does the first one, it kind of would have been much cooler to have him come back and do the last 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, I would have loved Raimi coming back to the cabin.
Wouldn't that have been amazing?
I liked what I got.
Well, this is the other thing, is that whoever's directing it, and they all have different directors, but they're doing the Raimi style of directing. It's almost like...
I think they were brought up in that Raimi school because I looked these guys up. I'm looking through the episodes right now, and it's guys that have directed Spartacus, a bunch of them, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same kind of crews that worked on Spartacus and worked on some of the other shows down, and Xena and Herc and stuff. But at the same time, like, I just appreciate it all feeling like an Evil Dead thing. Because imagine if this had suddenly started to feel like something else, you know? Like, one of the big problems I have...
sure would want an Ash versus The Walking Dead type scenario. No, thank you.
Right, exactly. It's like every time James Bond sits around and gets melancholy, I'm like, James Bond's not meant to be melancholy.
He's meant to, like, kiss the chicks.
Right? So, like, I wouldn't want Ash to sit around... And I think Ash getting... You know, Ash showing some of the PTSD stuff is nice. Ash getting emotional when Fisher dies is great. Like, but that's it. Like, I don't need him to do much more than that. You know, like, I don't want him sitting around reminiscing or having deep thoughts. He needs to be strapping on the chainsaw and carving people in two, which is what he does, which is great. So, if I have any problems with the opening sequence, opening episode, it was the CGI and probably like the sex and drug gag. Like
it really did get old. I mean, we know Ash is old. And that was another concern I had going into it. I'm like, I don't want every joke to be oh my God, I'm old joke. Like, I didn't want Ash to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Expendable movies.
Right. But also I didn't want, like, I didn't want the whole series for him to be like, oh, my bum knee, or oh, my bad back, or oh, I have to put on my corset, or, whatever. They do a little bit of that when he fights himself, which kind of makes perfect sense. But they didn't do it the rest of the series. Like, the rest of the series, he's not complaining about... he's not suddenly bringing out reading glasses or any shit like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's fine. And so that I like. So I didn't like the sex joke. I'm not a big fan of the fact that he read from the book because he got high with a chick. Like, I feel like they could have written something better than that. But okay.
I feel like that's something that Ash would have probably done.
Right. Right. No,
so I let it slide.
Yeah. No, it probably is. But like, and like I say, with each rewatch, this kind of gets better. The second episode, though, I really liked, with Kelly's demon mom coming back, who was also Tom Cruise's ex-wife.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
The possessed mother in the second episode is played by Mimi Rogers.
Didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
I know that actress. Didn't know that was Tom Cruise's ex-wife.
Yeah, I believe she was married to Tom Cruise at one time.
Was she crazy Scientologist or?
I honestly don't know. I know that she wanted to do all her own stunts and that she really, really enjoyed like getting covered in goo. So fair play to her.
Yeah, good job, lady.
Yeah, good job. I enjoyed that a lot. I liked her crawling on the ceiling. I loved her fight with Ash in the bedroom. I think it's good to establish another character who has loss, so that Kelly kind of... Like, Kelly's gone a different way with it. Like, Ash kind of went the PTSD route, and Kelly is sort of doing the fuck it, vengeance, Chuck Bronson type route,
Yeah.
She's just like, right, I want every deadite dead now because they took my mum kind of thing, which is awesome.
Were you on board with the Pablo and Kelly characters?
Right away.
Originally?
Right away.
I was not.
Okay,
I was not.
so talk a bit about that, dude.
I just something about Pablo was just annoying to me, and I think it was his weirdo hair. But now I've grown to love the weirdo hair. And Kelly she is, I don't know, man. She's one of those girls that you look at her and you're like, I don't know if you're hot or ugly. I just can't tell, and it's weird. But then, like, I really got on board when she started, becoming the super ass kicker at the end of the season.
Right, because she's sort of mini Ash.
Right.
And, like, Pablo is kind of us. Like, he looks up to Ash and wants to kind of be on the sidelines while Ash is kicking ass. You know what I mean? Like, he's sort of us, but then they're going to give him the whole, like, Brujo thing and sort of expand his special powers, I guess. But I think because I had, I've watched series like Buffy and Angel, and I've watched Firefly and those, like, Joss Whedon shows that often have, like, big ensemble casts. I actually didn't mind any of this. Like, a lot of this plays, like the whole Ruby thing, like Ruby being bad, and then next series she's sort of good but sort of bad and whatever. That's kind of like Spike was in Buffy, and I kind of accept those characters. Like, that's fine. So, and I don't mind Lucy Lawless being in there. I like seeing I like seeing Autolycus and Xena back together again. It's kind of fun. And
I'm enjoying the fact that we're going to get Ted Raimi in season 2.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about...
Ted Raimi looked like a train wreck.
We'll talk about season 2 in a minute, but, like, I am so fucking excited for that. You know what I mean? Like, Ted Raimi needed to be in that first series, and the fact that he wasn't and that they're bringing him in... Like, it's not Evil Dead until Ted shows up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Like, I would have loved it if, just as a nod to the old movies, Ted was like one of the Shemps in the first series. Like, he played a hand or a leg or the back of someone's head or something. You know what I mean?
He's dressed up in women's clothing at the bar.
Yeah, like, I need to know that Ted was, like, playing an old woman in the back of, like, the supermarket scene or something. Like, Ted should just be in everything. So I'm really glad that he's back. I think that the casting of Ash's dad Brock as
Lee Majors.
Lee Majors. That is a stroke of fucking genius. I mean, that is just a stroke of fucking genius.
Talk about a guy I thought was dead 20 years ago.
Isn't there that joke in Scrooged, at the beginning of Scrooged, where it's like Lee Majors saves Christmas, and he bursts in with a shotgun into like Santa's...
I haven't seen Scrooge since I saw it in the theater.
But yeah. No, I mean, Lee Majors, it's perfect. Like, the only other one that I would have taken if he didn't...
Shatner?
Well, fuck. Actually, now I've said it, like, fucking Shatner would be amazing. No, I was going to say if he wasn't a fucking skeleton, Burt Reynolds.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. I feel... I have watched some Burt stuff recently, and I watched that documentary, The Bandit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on Spike or some crappy TV channel. Man, I don't think we got Burt for much longer. It is clear that he's had a stroke. Like, half of his face isn't working properly.
Yeah.
I just feel so bad for that guy.
I met him at the Comic-Con, and he had to, like... he would sign for 20 minutes and then go sit down for 20 minutes and then come back and sign for 20 minutes. Like,
he's so bad, and I hate to say it, like, even the rug is suffering.
No,
the rugs aren't that quality anymore.
Dude, he looks like a skeleton that's been dressed up for like a trauma movie. Like he looks like bad clothes and a bad wig on a skeleton. That's what
you watch him in those 70s movies, and he is just like the epitome of the virile male.
Right.
Like, there was no other more dude guy than that guy.
But no, Lee
had the most of the machismo that you could ever have.
Definitely. And like, if he was like Lee Majors is, or if he was like Shatner is and still fighting fit, great. But as it stands, Lee Majors perfect fucking casting.
Yeah.
So,
if I'm not mistaken, like, Lee Majors was a stunt guy, right?
Yeah, he was in The Stunt Guy, the TV
the Fall
series.
Guy, yeah.
The Fall Guy, right.
I thought he really was, like, a stunt guy.
I don't know, dude. I would have to look that up. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, let's just pretend he was.
Let's pretend he was. That's a good idea.
Like, I'm going to imagine this dude's no spring chicken, and he's going to get in there and covered in gore and have some fights, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is going to be awesome. It's going to be incredible. And, it's going to be fantastic. And, I honestly can't wait. It's gonna be
October 12th, right?
October 2nd, I thought.
Oh, even better.
I think so.
You're right. October 2nd.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's just time for us to take a little bit of a break in my conversation with Carl to hop on over to Facebook and the Bruce Campbell Fan Club. I put a post in there saying that we wanted to hear your comments on Ash vs. Evil Dead, and you did not disappoint. So a big thank you to the Bruce Campbell Fan Club for throwing your 2 cents worth in, and everyone in there being incredibly welcoming and, as the man would say, groovy. So, Darren Timmons says, I think it's bloody brilliant and a real fun watch. Thanks for making it one of my favourite series of all time. Matt Kinsey says, I loved it. Between giving us new characters that are a lot of fun in their own right and making Ash the butt of some old jokes while he brings out the badassery. One small issue I've had with the show is the use of CGI. It is very B-movie-esque, but something about it always just bothers me a little. And then Robert Montgomery says, I'd give you my opinion if I could convince my wife to finish the season. For being such a huge fan of Bruce Campbell, she sure doesn't seem to want to watch the show. With a little cheeky face afterwards. We then had a bit of a back and forth with Robert. I don't know if he managed to see the last 5 episodes of the series last night. Robert, do let us know over at aftermoviediner@gmail.com when you finish the series what you thought about it. His wife did chime in and said, with regard to your original comment, I am not responsible for you staying up all night and waking up at noon. Anyway, next comment, Adam Sandage, hope I'm pronouncing these names correctly, says, I didn't even know this was a show that was being made until about a month before it premiered. I was not on Facebook at that time or a member of this fine page. Luckily, I didn't have to wait that long to see a dream realized. For me, it was as if God came down and gave us a miracle of creation. By God, of course, I mean Bruce. Laughed my ass off. I loved it. From beginning to end, the arrogant, blowhard Ash was back, and with age came no wisdom whatsoever. I'll be damned, though, if he isn't the bestest deadite slayer out there, though. No offense to Pablo and Kelly. I thought the bravado, machismo, and boneheadedness were right on point, and the end of the season didn't surprise me in the least. It actually made me smile. Can't wait for season 2. Kelly Portwood finishes up with, it's like riding on a roller coaster ride through an abattoir. Ash vs. Evil Dead is full of thrills, chills, laughter, and bloodshed. Lots of it. Great show and worth the extra dollars. All right, then. So that is some of the feedback of some of the Bruce Campbell fans out there. If I get any more before the end of the show, I'll pop some more in. So listen out for that. But thanks ever so much for everyone in the Bruce Campbell fan club for getting back to us. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this show, check out aftermoviediner.com, not just for more podcasts, but also for articles and reviews. And, of course, our Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 2 ongoing reviews and commentary. Excellent. And now back to my conversation with Mr. Poling. So we don't have to go like episode to episode. I love the hand that they build him. I love that they're using the shotgun and chainsaw all the time. I'm glad that wasn't just I'm going to use it once and then dump it and just have the metal hand for the rest of the film. I'm glad that they're sticking with what he's good at, you know?
Didn't Pablo build that hand out of, like, an old Super Nintendo?
Yeah, and what's hilarious is on the commentary, they go, yeah, we looked on YouTube and found that there are people who, like, build hands like this all the time out of just stuff they find in their garage. And
I'm not surprised.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you could build a hand, but how do you get it so that, like, the tendons and the shit in your arm operate it? Like,
well, through a series of levers and pulleys, obviously. If Army of Darkness has not taught me, internal surgery.
But, like, what I mean is, you could make a hand that would, like, just screw onto the end of his arm, but it wouldn't move.
But you know what? Yeah, for me and you, but this is Bruce Campbell.
Right, of course. No, I get it.
It probably would move for him.
This is actually Jay Williams. He knows exactly what he's doing with... my primitive brain wouldn't understand coppers and alloys and things with molecular structures.
We'd just be the dummies holding the bag of, like, phosphorus over the fire.
Yeah, we're a spinach chin.
Yes.
Okay, so this was another thing that I felt was a little lacking in season 1, was the quips and the one-liners. I don't think they're quite as iconic. I don't think they've quite found their pace. Like Army of Darkness, every other line is a quotable classic. Like, it's up there with The Big Lebowski as being the most quotable movie. And...
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, but think of... Okay, Big Trouble in Little China has plenty of good stuff in it, but think about everything Ash says in Army of Darkness.
Everything, almost, yeah.
Everything is... Like, the fact that he calls the guy Spinach Chin, the fact that when they're all, like, all the people come to him after he's got the book, he's like, get the fuck out of my face. Like,
that's my favorite line in the whole movie. That's, like, the only time he ever curses. It's just like... It's almost like you watch that and it's an accident, like that was an outtake or something. Like he was just mad one day. Get the fuck away from me.
And then he says, like, you ain't leading but two things right now, Jack and shit, and Jack left town. You know, are all people from the future loudmouth braggarts? Just me, baby, just me. Like, there's every fucking line in that movie is...
Yeah, baby. That's my favorite, too.
So, to me, in this series, we're still only getting glimmers. We're not... I don't think we're getting 100%.
We're not getting something we're going to be quoting in 10 years.
No. We're getting, like... We're getting 80%, 85% Ash. We're not getting 100% Ash. But I'm not... That's not a huge complaint. It's just an observation. I'm trying to think if there's any other point. I love LaDuca's score. LaDuca is banging out some great music for this series. Although I know you hate the overuse of space trucking.
Oh, that song was just, well, around that time, man, that was almost like that Mad World song. Enough with this. Like, every movie was using space trucking. There was like 3 of them right in a row. They were using those on the trailers. And you're just like, oh, enough with this. Yeah, I think they could have picked a better song. But that's so minor of a fucking complaint. I don't even care.
Right. So if How many?
Ash is more. I'll put it this way: Ash is more of a Credence man, I would say.
Yes, he's definitely more of a Credence guy. I'm not buying the whole like heavy metal thing. It's kind of what they tried to do with that trailer for Army of Darkness, where they tried to like metal it up for early.
Oh, with the Metallica song.
Yeah, for like early '90s goths, and I'm, I'm not sure that that's exactly what this. I mean, it's fine.
It's a weird trailer because it's clearly 4 different Metallica riffs not played by Metallica, so they didn't have to pay them.
Right.
Weird.
But in general, I'm liking the effects, the practical effects in this. I'm liking the makeup. I'm liking the action sequences. I'm liking the soundtrack. I'm loving the return to the cabin. I've got no problem with any of the cast. Like, none of the cast bother me.
Pablo and Kelly really did grow on me.
Yeah. And by, you know, like...
I even love like, the 3 randos that show up in the last episode. You're just like... Or the last 2 episodes, because oh, well, that's just fodder. You're just going to die in a horrible fucking fashion.
How about Fisher or Zombie Fisher using those 2 campers as puppets? That was fucking awesome.
That was awesome. I was surprised that they let Fisher die.
Yeah.
And they did.
Well, I mean, again, and I was talking to my buddy Chris about this, you can't go into season 2 with Ash having an established love interest. You know what I mean?
He's in Fort Lauderdale partying right now.
Right. You've got to have that thing like with the Death Wish series where if Ash even gets near a woman, they're dead within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if Chuck Bunce is like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, and then like the woman
everybody got raped.
Yeah, everyone got raped and killed in that 5 minutes because that's what happens with Chucky Braun. And I think that's what happens with Ash as well. Like you just can't, like Ash gets near a woman and within 5 minutes she's spewing black goo on him and raising an army of the deadites. So yeah, I don't have any like huge complaints about season 1. Like I say, it reignited my fandom. There are always bound to be things. There's going to be things in season 1 and things in season 2 and things in anything that Campbell and Raimi do from now on, where I'm like, But at the end of the day, I think if you can put that behind you and just learn to love it for what it is and not what it's not, then I can be happy.
There's more to love than there is to hate in this series.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, going into season 2, I'm happy about all of it, but I am trepidatious about the Baal character. The whole, like, the guy with a long demon fingernail and long black hair and a long black coat being all, like, menacing. Like, I don't know that... You know what I mean? Like, we wait and see if it's any good, but...
Yeah.
I don't know that the Evil Dead needs... like a big bad guy like that. It already has enough demons and shit flying about. But I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll work, and I'm sure Ash will chop that dude's head off. Or
absolutely, he will.
You know what I mean? And we'll always have the movies, and there'll always be 3 of the greatest films ever made, hands down.
Honestly, recently, I had to admit to myself, I kind of like Buckaroo Banzai a little better than Evil Dead 2. I think it's my favorite movie of all time now.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just find myself going back to that movie more than Evil Dead 2 as my ultimate all-time favorite movie.
So let me ask you this. How do you feel about Kevin Smith making a Buckaroo Banzai TV series?
I don't think it'll happen.
I think it's happening. I think it is happening. I think the deal is inked, as they say.
I will say this. I'll say the exact same thing about Evil Dead. Look, man, if you're not going to have Peter Weller as Buck in it, don't bother. Don't bother if you're not going to get Lithgow, which I don't think you're going to get Lithgow.
Right.
But maybe he's always been wanting to do this. He's said it before in interviews and stuff. He'd love to do this. But the most thing, you have to get the writer, Earl Mac Roush, to write that shit, because just like that movie alone, the writing in that is so – there's nothing else like it. Just like the raw-ass talent that Sam Raimi brought to, like, the first Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 movies, it's the exact same thing. You're not going to get that from anybody else. You're just going to get a Xerox copy of that doesn't feel like the original.
But imagine being the guy who wrote Big Trouble in Little China and Buckaroo Banzai. I mean, that's like the greatest contribution to.
Oh, you're talking about that W.D. Richter?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think he's done anything else. He just peaced out. I did 2 of the world's greatest movies. Now I'm out of here, everybody.
Boom, done, gone. Yeah.
Drop the mic. I don't need to do. He's the Michael Jordan. See you later.
So, okay, so I posted this week on the site, because I have to wrap this up now, dude, but I posted this week on the site a whole shit ton about Series 2, which is coming up. And I can also tell you that I will actually be reviewing the first 2 episodes of Season 2 before they air, because I'm a lucky son of a bitch.
Nice.
I've seen a whole bunch of trailers. I've seen a whole bunch of photographs. I've heard the casting decisions. What are you looking forward to, and what are you trepidatious about going into Season 2, dude?
Lee Majors, and I don't know about the spring breaky Ash on spring break. I don't know.
From what I understand, just from the trailers,
it'll probably just like the first episode, but
no, I think that probably just lasts 5 minutes, honestly.
Oh well, that's fine. And you know what? At this point, you've got me on the hook for the whole entire second season.
Right.
I mean, it's going to take a lot of boring stuff right in a row to make me take a Walking Dead exit.
Yeah, no, of course. No, and I think that's the point. Is like the problem with The Walking Dead is 100 marks for Greg Nicotero's effects and 0 for writing. I don't care about any of the characters. I don't care about any of their morals. What they do is boring. Each series is a carbon copy of the series that comes before.
Norman Reedus, take a fucking shower.
Right? Even if you throw yourself in a fucking river, you know what I mean? Like,
he's the dirtiest man ever. He's just. I even see a picture of that guy. He's like the modern day Joe Spinell. He never has. He's never looked clean his entire life.
Spinell was perpetually greased. There was no Spinell's face wasn't covered with pockmarks. It was covered with oil receptacles that just oozed grease.
He's like, oh, you're going to take a picture. Let me put my face in this pineapple first. Where Norman Reedus is like, let me just go roll in the ditch for a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, and also, as someone pointed out, like, some guys have grown beards, other people have managed to shave. Some people have long, greasy, lanky hair. Other people have managed to cut their hair somehow. Like, it's ridiculous. So anyway, I'm glad it's not The Walking Dead. As long as they keep up the pace, keep up the silliness, keep up the gore, keep up the characters, I'll be happy. Is there
maybe get Sam Raimi in there for an episode?
I want to see Sam and Ivan like more involved. Like,
I think they're honestly just happy cashing paychecks.
Right, but what's Sam doing? Like, I haven't heard a movie that he's got planned. Like, he was meant to be doing World of Warcraft, didn't.
Thank God.
He's executive producing another TV series called Noir. I'd never even fucking heard of it.
Never heard of that either.
He produced Don't Breathe, so he's cashing paychecks from Ash vs. Evil Dead and Don't Breathe without really having to do very much at all. He's apparently directing a movie called World War III, which has been announced, but...
Look, man, it doesn't matter. Sam Raimi could direct a snuff film and I'd watch it. Because it would be the most finely directed snuff film ever.
If it hasn't got Bruce in the lead, I'm just not that interested.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't need another Wizard of Oz. Nobody needed that.
You know what I mean? But anyway, so, I'm looking forward to Season 2. It's going to be awesome, I think. So we'll wait and see. And we've got some questions and comments here, finally, before we wrap this up. Matt Payne just says, just finished the first season on Blu-ray. Enjoyed every gory moment. So glad to see Bruce Campbell back in action as Ash. Josh Teeter says...
That's Josh from down the road, my boy.
Josh from down the road says, not a question about the first season per se, but do you think the show will end with the death of Ash? And if so, will it only be so people will stop asking for Evil Dead 4?
No, it'll end in the death of Ash, and then the next season they'll bring him back or some crap like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
This is a series where it doesn't matter.
Anything could happen.
If you die, no problem bringing you back.
Or like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Fisher again, or fucking, like, there was even rumors that Ellen Sandweiss had gone down to New Zealand, so we may even fucking see Cheryl come back to life. Like, fucking,
that'd be great.
Anything is possible, dude. And I also think, like, if they go into the future and Ash becomes fucking bionic and, like, fights his bionic self, like some kind of Jason X madness, I'm all for that. Like, there isn't much they could, like, as long as it's Bruce Campbell and as long as
like Ash during the Great Depression, I don't think I'd be down with that. Maybe just out there sharecropping and real skinny, nah. Fighting tumbleweed, deadites, don't need that. French Revolution, nah.
But I think whatever they do, they'll make it fun, I think.
Yeah.
And that, you know, if they go season 3, season 4, the set directors and the special effects guys are going to have their work cut out for them, is all I think.
I just thought of something I would love to see in season 2. Let's get Danny Hicks in here somehow.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that. Like, get as many of the cast that are still alive and kicking to be in it. I want to see Danny back. I want to see the Lazy Evil Dead back. I want to see Scotty Haldelrich back. I want to see
the blonde guy from part 2 that's the shop at home guy.
QVC guy?
Yeah, the QVC dude.
Isn't the woman who played Bobby Joe, didn't I read recently that she had, like, cancer or something?
Oh, I don't know. She's the one that I never kept track of. I
think Hicks posted about that. I think Danny Hicks posted about that on Facebook. I think she's not very well. I would have fucking your lady out of Army of Darkness, Embeth Davitt's back.
Yeah.
I would have Tim Quill come back as like
as as a blacksmith character somehow, or a mechanic,
or a futuristic blacksmith. Like I would have that. Like he's
Let's get a professional wrestler in here.
Fuck yeah! I would have Bill Moseley come back. He was in Army of Darkness as a Deadite captain. I'd have everyone. Like, there's no reason why not to. Like you say, the season can go anywhere. If they can go back to if Ash's hand is still wandering around, like, fucking anything is possible. Get fucking Liam Neeson as Darkman to show up.
Shit. Yeah, as long as he has his lair, I'm down with that.
As long as he says, "Come see the dancing freak and give me the fucking elephant." Like,
he snaps that guy's fingers. It'd be okay.
So. James Peter Cox asks, what do you think the chances are of Starz renewing the show for seasons 3 and 4? If the worst happens, would Netflix take the show on?
No, I don't think they would. They've never done that for any... Well, they did it for Arrested Development. I didn't think about that. There was rumors about them doing that for Hannibal, and they never did. I don't think they'd take it.
First of all,
but I don't think it's going to fail.
First of all, I don't think Starz would give up the rights, or rather Anchor Bay... Stroke Starz corporate entity would give up the rights. Secondly, I don't think that the whole unit that's working on this show from production on down has worked with Rob Tapert and Sam Raimi for like 30 years. Like they've worked with Xena and Hercules and Jack of All Trades and the Spartacus series, and I think even some of them go back to like that. Didn't they produce Cleopatra 2042 or whatever that?
Oh God, I don't know. That one was just like here today, gone tomorrow.
But I think like this, I don't see that crew that have worked with Starz and other networks for so long together jumping ship for Netflix. I just don't see that happening.
No.
Season 3, I think we have a 90% chance of seeing season 3. Getting a double renewal of season 3 and 4 really I think that only happens if Starz sees a 50% uptick in subscriptions on October 1st.
Well, I'll say this: we'll know at the end of episode 1, season 2. If there's a season 3, I'll bet you.
Do you think that's when we find out?
Yeah.
Do you think that's what happens?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, maybe I agree with that. So, in the Ash vs. Evil Dead fan group on Facebook, John Effin Klaus, or Claus, John Effin Claus, maybe. It's 2 S's, though, so I don't know. After Ash put Mr. Roper through the Delta's window, how did it miraculously fix itself when they were outrunning evil on the way to Brujo's house? I know the answer is because it did, but you asked first.
Let's just chalk that up to one of the awesome mistakes. Like, there's so many of in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I mean, the Delta is clean every time you see it, despite the fact that it gets covered in blood in, like, episode 2.
Yeah. Armorall's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the windows magically come back. Bruce's shirt, for example, is forever blue, even though he gets...
it's Teflon. That shit's Teflon.
Yeah, either that or he has, like, 800 different shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big, gory cartoon of a show, and that's just what happens. Why is it that Scrappy and... sorry, not Scrappy, like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy run past the same suit...
Just like the Flintstones.
The same suit of armor in this creepy castle 8 times. Because they do.
Yeah.
So that's it. I don't think we got any more questions, dude. But did we cover everything about Ash vs. Evil Dead you wanted to say?
Absolutely. I can't think of anything else.
But we're all on board for Season 2. And thank you for being here today, Carl. It's been a pleasure. Always interested in your take on stuff. You have a very good, like, pragmatic... this is it.
I'm a terrible podcaster. I don't.
All right, dude. Look, all the best, Chief, and let's speak soon. Thanks ever so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so before we introduce legendary producer, writer, actor, director, creator, blogger, zombie fan, and Ash vs. Evil Dead fan, wonderful and splendid Canadian James Saito onto the show, just a couple of public service messages. Please subscribe, rate, and review the Hold the Mayo podcast and Moturn Media Infomercial podcast. Both podcasts can be found on iTunes, but equally they both have their own websites. Hold the Mayo podcast can be found over at corruptaudio.com, along with some other terrific shows, and Moturn Media Infomercial podcast can also be found on moturnmedia.com. That's MOTERN media.com. And they are just fantastic websites and fantastic shows. Take a look at them, take a listen of them, subscribe to them, rate and review them, become friends with them, hold them close to your bosom, and just generally enjoy the joy and frivolity of podcasting, especially with these two wonderful shows. And now, without a further ado, I would like to introduce and invite onto the show the man who made Herschel Gordon Lewis's return to filmmaking possible, the man who is producing some of the greatest horror and gore and fun flicks out there at the moment, the man who has sat and watched hundreds of shitty zombie movies just so that you can read the reviews and you don't have to on his fantastic website. We get into all of this and more while discussing the first series of Ash vs. Evil Dead with none other than superstar Canadian James Saito. Check this out.
John, I can only take so many bad films. James Saito's zombie movie rating guide, I guess.
We haven't talked about it or looked at it for ages. It used to be when we were both on Twitter more, I think.
Yeah, bloodmania.ca would probably be the better one to promote.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if because we were talking Ash vs. Evil Dead, whether you'd touched on it on the website or not. That's what I was looking at.
No. Well, I haven't, no.
This was your opportunity to talk about it. Is that why you wanted to do this?
Well, I just love the series. I think it's the best horror series that's ever been on television.
Wow, that's awesome. Excellent. I came at it from a bumpy way because of my fandom taking a dip because of the whole remake thing. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that Bruce has been a bit of he's kind of not who he was, and it's just slightly bothering me. But I am very positive about
he can be a very hard fellow to get to know, and I think, actually, when he came down and he was filming Fargo here, my effects guy, was doing his makeup. And so he was casting his ears and doing some facial casts, and said, yeah, basically he's a really nice guy. I guess once you get him away from the convention setting, but a lot of them are once you're with professionals.
Yeah, I'd always heard that he was like a good guy, and I never thought that he had stopped being a good guy on set and being professional. I just think his public persona went from being one where, yes, it was jokey, and yes, it was fun, and yes, it was exciting, and yes, he was a little bit hammy, to being one where, now he dresses in lounge suits. And, I just watched one today that was from Chicago 2016, so it's like one of the most recent ones he's done. And I think a guy asks about... it's a fairly bland question. Like, the guy asks, what were some of your favorite scenes to make in Ash vs. Evil Dead? Okay, it's a fairly bland question. He's probably answered it 50 times. But he kind of shouted the guy down, and not even in a playful way. Like, in a fairly sort of... Like, if I was that guy, my soul would be crushed. So, And I get it. Like, I get it, but at the same time, as someone who's tried to get an interview from the guy, as someone who's tried to reach out to him, as someone who's tried to be a fan, and been knocked back, and noticing time and time again, actually, that he's doing less and less publicity outside of the convention circuit. So he's basically, it's almost like, I'll do publicity, but if I'm paid for it. And I understand, I get it. It's wonderful and fantastic, and he's finally got the sort of star power that he should have always had. But I don't know, with it has come just a slight reservation on my end. So the only reason to kind of paraphrase my opinion on the series was that I came at it from having a certain... my fandom, let's say, had lost its sheen. And to some extent, the TV series repolished my fandom, and now I'm back with both barrels. But like I said in my article about fandom and Bruce Campbell and everything, I sort of said, rather than being frustrated at what your heroes aren't, just be thankful for what your heroes are, I guess. And I feel similarly to that way to the series, which is I'm not critical of what it isn't. I'm just happy for the things that it is. And I think that's kind of my...
Yeah, well, I'm just happy that there's a continuation of The Evil Dead by the principals involved with the film series.
Definitely.
And it's a treat. And in that regard, they actually managed to pull off what I consider to be the perfect elements.
I do agree, actually. I really do agree. Anyway, James, give the listeners just a little... I know you've been on the show before, but give them a little background as to who you are in terms of both zombie films, but also The Evil Dead.
Well, I have a little website called James Saito's Zombie Movie Rating Guide, where I took on the inglorious task of trying to review every single zombie film that is produced. And I'm failing miserably at this point because I just don't... I have neither the time, and it takes an awful lot for me to get up the inclination to watch them, because lately there's been, nothing but garbage. Wormwood, I think, was the last great zombie film that I saw.
I loved that one. I really did like that one.
Yeah, and, the Deadites, well, you got to love them. But, do they fit in with a standard Romero zombie? Not so much. They're a different animal completely. They're more, demons than they are anything else. But there are certainly the zombie elements. So, it's not something that I've covered. I did cover the Evil Dead film, so I guess I should probably do a review of the series, which would be a glowing one because, as I say, Herschel Gordon Lewis and I sat down and thought about what makes for entertaining film and television these days. So what it came down to in our minds was a large element of humor, really well done gore, and some actual frightening material.
Yeah.
And the Ash versus Evil Dead captures all three elements beautifully. and it's just a joy to watch. They've certainly raised the bar for a lot of television, and I think that's where I don't think personally I'm going to be involved in many more theatrical films. I see horror going right to television.
Yeah, or streaming services or something.
Yes, and that's exactly what HGB Entertainment, my company, is doing right now. We've got a couple of pilots that are out there, and hopefully, it bears some fruit because, I can't really discuss what they are at the moment, but they certainly fit well into this golden age of horror on television, right into a certain niche.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that. In fact, we saw a trailer for season 6, so I thought I should probably get on the bandwagon at some point. But that American Horror Story, and I've only ever heard sort of mixed things about it. Have you seen any of that?
Honestly, no.
No.
I haven't. Because it hasn't intrigued me enough. I've been watching Penny Dreadful.
Right.
Which, no matter what anybody says, Penny Dreadful is off the air for budgetary concerns.
Right.
You don't introduce characters like Dr. Jekyll and everything at the beginning of a season and say, "Oh yeah, we plan to end it all along." No, you didn't. There was, right. The network said, it was probably a conversation like, "We're cutting you back 30% of your budget." Well, we can't do it on that, and they went their separate ways. That's unfortunately that is the nature of the business, and. You look at AMC when they were bringing Mad Men back for its final season, and they were, their biggest rating giant is The Walking Dead, and yet they took money from Walking Dead's budget to make another season of Mad Men because it was award winning. So it's a big game out there, and to quote William Goldman, in Hollywood no one knows anything.
Well, yeah, it does seem like that sometimes. In fact, it's interesting you say that because obviously The Walking Dead had that big problem once with Frank Darabont and that leaving and going into the second season with less money. And each season, I believe, I don't know whether they've slowly grown the budget again as it's continued to be so successful, but I had a feeling that the budget either remained the same and or went down each season. And with it was interesting as well because in that interview I saw with Bruce Campbell today talking about Ash vs. Evil Dead going into the second season, which starts in a couple of weeks' time. He said something, and it was just an offhand remark, but he was like, well, of course, as you go on to the next seasons, they cut your budget. So it's this idea that you kind of get the biggest budget you're going to have to make the splash on the first series. And then subsequent seasons you have to kind of do less with. And I guess that's because you've set up the first season, you're setting up the machine, and then the subsequent seasons, the idea is you just keep pumping out the sausages, essentially, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll even notice, I think probably the last 3 or 4 episodes of season 1, you started to see more CGI and not as much practical.
In Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of the way the industry, kind of goes. So
yeah, although the first episode it was the first episode that for me, the Sam Raimi directed one that struck me as the most sort of weirdly CGI heavy. Because I would have assumed that's the one they had the most prep time on. But then actually in the second season, what I know about it anyway, and the bits that I've seen, it's as practical as it possibly can be. I think they enhance, obviously, little bits here and there with CGI just because of time and budget. But because they've done... The first season was filmed on the hoof, and they kind of came up with it as they were going along. Famously, they didn't know what Ruby's character was going to be until halfway through the season. But with the second season, they wrote it, shot it, made it, and everything before it's even gone out. Bruce stopped filming it 2-3 months ago, I think. So that might lead to slightly more time on practical and slightly more practical elements and practical effects, I'm hoping.
Well, I'd like to think so. Depending on, you can't find anything out. I've looked around the net just to see what the budget might be on each episode, and I know that New Zealand is giving them probably incredible, incentives to film there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the hardest thing with practical effects is that it requires time to build them.
Yeah.
So you need a fairly large effects house to be able to handle it. And that's something that if I was to actually sell 2 series right now, I don't know what I would actually do, because, it's one would be, well, they're both heavily effects laden, and so yeah, our guy would be Dave Traynor, our prosthetic man, who just was in Los Angeles at the Emmys for his work on Fargo. Would have his hands full.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, right down to that wonderful demon, and I'm going to forget its name now, but the demon deadite that Ash conjures up, believing it to be just a little deadite in the bookshop. That is, for my money, that is the best combination of man in suit, practical special effects, filmic techniques like post filming editing and filmic techniques, and CGI. It's one of the best blending of all those things for a really creepy and original effect. Like, I hadn't seen anything like that before. I mean, it's got big hints of Guillermo del Toro in its design. It looks very much like some of his monsters, but in terms of the way it's presented and what they did with it, that was a thrill for me. I loved that.
Yes, me too. That was very creative. There's something almost every episode that just blows my mind. The scene where Kelly has the deadite and starts moving its head back and forth on the industrial meat slicer.
Right.
I phoned Dave Traynor and I said, they just raised the bar on us big time.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that you've never quite seen before, and it was good.
Yeah,
when you have that kind of gore and it's making you laugh out loud, it's kind of funny,
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting mix because it's definitely taken, although obviously, Evil Dead 1 and 2 feature its fair share of gross out and amazing practical effects and ideas and gore and gru and all the rest of it. Obviously, there are films like Dead Alive or Brain Dead if you're in the rest of the world, or Reanimator and things that also did their own things. And what's nice is seeing Ash versus Evil Dead. For my money, it's not just that it's an Evil Dead thing, because the Evil Deadedness of it can be debated by fanboys ad nauseum. But for me, it's that it's like an 80s horror movie in 10 parts. It has aspects of Reanimator. It has aspects of Dead Alive. It has aspects of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 1. And it has aspects of Nightmare on Elm Street and everything. Like, it's got that wonderful sensibility, even with a few sort of questionable CGI moments. It's got that sensibility and the way it's shot and the way it's lit and the way it's acted and the colors of the costumes and everything. It's both bright and colorful while also being dark and gritty. Like, it's the perfect mix. It's all those things that I love about 80s horror movies that are obviously highly inspired by sort of the Italian 70s horror movies that were lit that way as well, with pinks and greens and reds and mauves, and it has all that stuff, and that's, for me, every episode is sort of like a delight. I think of that sequence with Lem down in the basement holding the flare, the way it was shot, the shadows, the thing, coupled with the humor, coupled with the gore, coupled with the physical action and comedy. Like, I love that sequence. I wouldn't want to lose that episode because it has that sequence in it.
No, not at all. I mean, they were all... There was sort of a... You didn't know what to expect with each episode, and I enjoyed that. Like when Ash is high.
Right.
I thought that's great, And really, I mean, it's not... Ash vs. Evil Dead really allows the audience to really get to know Ash. For whether that's better or worse, I don't know. But it's that self-deprecating humor and his machismo that really, and his brain deadness in a lot of situations that's just amazing to me. And it's actually a spotlight for Mr. Campbell and doing what he does best. So regardless of whether however he is off stage,
right?
It's almost a perfect series. It's fantastic, and I hope that season 2 continues to break new ground. When I read Lee Majors was going to play Ash's father, I went, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's absolutely perfect. You're absolutely right. It is like an 80s horror film, only it comes at it and adds to it. There's almost an enhancement, just given the way that things are shot today, and the cinematographers have a great eye. But it's progressive rather than, say, nostalgic and like Stranger Things.
Right. No, it's definitely saying, and it's definitely saying, like, this is the next step. This is the next thing. I look at Evil Dead through to Army of Darkness and how each movie takes a step not only in characters but in scope and in effects and various other things. Anyone can say whatever they like about Army of Darkness, but just technically, considering it's made in a world almost prior to CGI, and certainly by a bunch of filmmakers that couldn't afford CGI, the number of technical elements there are in Army of Darkness are unbelievable and incredible that they managed to scrape that together into the movie that it is. But then Ash versus Evil Dead takes, the next leap. Bruce's character Ash takes a next step in the fact that he's, I think suffering a little from PTSD, and they could even play that up a bit more. But he then even takes the next step in his heroics, in his, braggadocio, in his sexual antics, in everything. Like he's Ash dialed up to 12. And Campbell makes an interesting point, because I was a little trepidatious about the whole 30 minutes thing. But when in interviews, Bruce has said that the best thing about the 30 minutes is it keeps the pace up. If each episode was an hour, but still only did what each of those 10 episodes did, so the plot remains the same, but they have an hour to do the plot, well, actually, there would be a huge sag effect, because there just isn't necessarily enough there with all the characters and everything to stretch it to that limit. Whereas at 30 minutes, some episodes are 40 minutes, they can absolutely pack them to bursting and take you on that roller coaster ride, just like they did with the first 3 Evil Dead movies, and it has that wonderful effect, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, television right now, you look at it and go, well, first of all, the format fits a writing team. Where if you've got 12 episodes and one of the opening episode is an hour, the finale is an hour, and you've got, let's say, 10 in between. So you've got 7 hours. And you can hand that off to various writers, and, it speeds up the process. And given that, a moderately budgeted half hour on television these days, it'd be about $1.4 million on your budget.
Yeah.
Which is, almost, when you think about it, it's staggering.
Yeah, I mean, I've put up recently an article about season 2 that has just about every tiny little bit of information that I could scrape from out on the great World Wide Web. And yeah, like you say, sort of the budget and any of the producing stuff behind the scenes has not been particularly explored. But then it never was for any of Tappert's stuff. I don't know that anyone went into Xena or Hercules or Spartacus or any of the stuff that Tappert has done down in New Zealand. I'm not sure that the money or any of that behind the scenes has ever been picked away at. I think we tend to find that stuff out when there's an issue. You know what I mean? When there's a contention. And Tappert, for all I can glean, runs a happy set. He has the same crew come back time and time and time again on every season he mounts down there. He gets reoccurring cast. So he must be, doing something right. I mean, in terms of that. So, and you're a producer, so you would know even more than I would in terms of how that goes and what that story is. So.
Well, if it wasn't the unions, if it wasn't for the unions, it would be easier to make. But when you walk up to anybody and say, okay, I want, depending on what you guys would like. Would you like 10, 12, 13? And I know that number is sitting around 10 now. That's the new one. And as I understand it, like the new Star Trek series, Discovery, I think it's going to run 12 the first season, but they would also like to, and on subsequent seasons, bring it down to 6.
Which is more of a European model, of course. That's sort of more what we did over in England, and I'm not hugely against it. I'm actually, like, 24 episodes or 22 episodes of a series can be a bit daunting. My view has become more personal and more narrow maybe than it used to be, and for me, my TV show that I will watch every single episode of is Ash vs. Evil Dead, and for other people it'll be whatever their series of choices. But
Downton Abbey.
Right, Downton Abbey, or that any number of NBC either family comedies around the new American family, or NBC shows where people quote one-lines over dead bodies, and then there's a sting, and then it goes to adverts, and then it comes back, and then people are wearing sunglasses, like whatever those TV series.
That's such an apt description. No, the problem is that there is so much content out there now that the viewer really has to be discerning.
I have heard this. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because we had that thing about the golden age of television, like movies are dead and TV's back. And movies aren't dead, they're just boring now. Or certainly the A-list ones that we see on the big screen, 90% of them are awful.
That's true.
I'm just generalizing for the purposes of my conversation, but what's happened is because of this golden age of television, and because actors are willing to come back to television, and because maybe they're being paid more, or maybe they're just getting better scripts to work on, or whatever it is, maybe they prefer the hours, or maybe they can work from home, or whatever it is. You're right. There is so much content out there, and that's before you even get into the smaller cable channels, and before you even get into independent content that's being done on Vimeo or YouTube or whatever. I mean, I know some web series that, given 4 days off work, I would sit down and binge watch several web series, but I just don't get that time.
Yeah, well, who has the time? I mean, that's why. My DVR is set to just certain programs, and those are my programs for the week. And and largely it's not horror. Ash is one of the few, since they canceled Penny Dreadful on me. That and Scream, I really like that series. I don't know why. It's mindless. But there's. And especially with horror now, because when you're dealing with horror all day long, the last thing you want to do is watch horror.
Yeah, exactly. I guess so.
So it's really refreshing to have a series that one that I've followed my whole life. I've been an Evil Dead fan as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and it's been a really interesting journey, I think, with the films and with everything. And especially with the story, because I think what drew me to the films was definitely, obviously the artistry and the story and the effects and the performances and everything on screen, but also kind of the story behind the scene and how actually you don't see yourself in Ash. If you're a creative person, you see yourself in Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert, putting it all on the line to get this thing made, and you see them yourself in that friendship, if you have a long-term friendship like I do with so many people, but specifically my friends Jon and James, who have both been on the podcast a lot, I see myself with them trying to get creative things off the ground, doing what we can together, hanging out for 30 years and making stuff and building stuff and having fun. And I see myself in Sam, Rob, and Bruce more than I do necessarily in the characters of Ash or Scotty or whatever, So that was always the big appeal to me. If this is what we get, if Ash vs. Evil Dead is what we get, and if the last 3 episodes of the first season taking place in the cabin with all the elements of Evil Dead that we love, if that's my Evil Dead 4, if that's the gang's back together, then I am more than happy, and my fandom is more than polished at this point again, I think.
Well, if every indication is correct, this may go on for 3 or 4 or 5 seasons. Who knows?
Yeah, that question's been coming up because, of course, they greenlit the second season very quickly. And it just depends. What it comes down to is how many people subscribe to Starz and how many people are waiting for DVD or how many people are pirating it. And that's the big problem with this stuff being online and being on streaming and having to have a subscription and all the rest of it, is that a lot of people will have a way to burn that digitally and share it with people. And if Starz don't see their subscriptions raise significantly, it won't really matter how good the show is or how popular it is at conventions. If they don't see each season, thousands of new subscribers, it won't last, I don't think.
Well, that's only one element. I mean, in terms of where it's distributed worldwide, I know in Canada here, we get it through Movie Central. It's sort of like Canada's HBO. So they're going to make money off of selling it to Movie Central, Netflix, whatever distribution network they're using worldwide. I mean, that's a significant amount of money.
Virgin Media, I think, in the UK.
Yeah, so you're not going to. I mean, yeah, there's going to be an element of torrent sharing and that sort of thing. But what it comes down to, I guess, in the long run is, are affiliates going to keep running the series, because that's just guaranteed money.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because I think that one of the things they keep going on about with Starz is that they're able to do anything on Starz. And I happen to know that in the second season there's one particular sequence that goes very far. And I wonder what affiliates are like, because Starz can screen what they like, but that's not always the case in other countries, right?
Well, not always the case, but I know in Canada it runs completely uncut. But we've never had a problem here that way.
No.
We tend to cut. We're long past cutting anything out of our. There's a little warning at the beginning, and if you don't pay heed, then that's your problem.
Right.
But
which makes sense.
Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, if this will offend you, don't watch. It's really easy. It should have been around for the last 40 years. But so yeah, and depending on what their Blu-ray sales are like and that sort of thing, and merchandising and everything else, then it's probably going to be profitable for years to come.
I mean, I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope we get 4 or 5 seasons, and at the very least, I would love it to go more. And, as early as the end of the first series, when Bruce was doing interviews, he was saying, look, even if we just do 3 successful seasons and it's really successful, we'll go back to movies. Mm-hmm. He said if 3 seasons of this show convinces someone in a studio somewhere that this is viable for X amount of budget or whatever, we'll just go back to movies, and we'll throw out a movie every 3 or 4 years. And what I like about him saying that is him finally coming to terms with being Ash and enjoying playing Ash, rather than not want, because every actor has that, right? If it's Jeremy Brett being Sherlock Holmes, or if it's Leonard Nimoy being Spock or whatever, everyone has that thing where it's like, I don't want to be the man who would be Ash, and he's got to that place where he's happy to be, I think, and that I'm happy with that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Jamie Farr used to say that about his character on MASH, Klinger.
Yeah,
because I'll continue to play it for the rest of my life. Because if they ask, I'll be there, because how often do you get an opportunity like this in one's life?
Right.
And I think he's come to terms with that now. And yeah, I mean, would I rather have an Evil Dead 4, or would I rather have 4 seasons of Ash versus Evil Dead? I think I know what my answer is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather get the seasons, because then you get more of it all.
Yeah, you can have a complete marathon.
Yeah. We should mention your other gig as a producer, writer, and film company runner, and all the things that you do, and plug all your stuff, sir.
Well, I would like to say that you're going to be able to see Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania right away, the new horror anthology. We're dealing with several distributors right now, and there's a possibility that Diabolique may have its own film distribution company. And that's something I've been working on. The idea being that if we were to become a distributor, we would look at releasing 2 films a year in the horror genre. That we would specifically pick, and we would give them, either limited or theatrical release, and handle all their, various platforms worldwide. So that's something that we're looking into, and it's looking very promising. We may have an anthology series coming to television. We're keeping our fingers crossed. And there is a Herschel Gordon Lewis film that I have received the rights to that we would like to do as a television series, in much the same way that Rodriguez has done with From Dusk Till Dawn, where season 1 tells the story of the movie and then you progress from there. So, these are things that are all down the pipeline, but, you never know till you try, and
Definitely.
we'd like to bring it to fruition. In fact, I approached Entertainment One for the slot behind Ash versus Evil Dead, simply because there hasn't been a horror anthology series for quite some time. And I don't think that, given that M. Night is redoing Tales from the Dark, or Tales from the Crypt,
right?
He's doing more of an American Horror Story slant. So to have an actual horror host who comes on and introduces a half-hour episode hasn't been done in quite some time. So we're hoping to fill that gap.
Yeah, the more crazy and exciting and inventive horror, the better. I need something that's exciting and silly and has a sense of humor and has a sense of humanity to it. And the more crazy shit we can get on television, man, the happier I am.
we have 20 completed scripts right now.
That's awesome.
And it runs the entire gamut. There's some really nasty stuff. There's some very funny stuff. There's a takeoff on Jack and the Beanstalk that's done in the world of the pornographic industry. All sorts of just weird little things that you just don't see. And so, we're very hopeful. And I've been submitting portions of Blood Mania as a bit of a pilot. So we shall see. I'm looking to partner up with one of Canada's big cable providers who's actually, evolving themselves and moving into sort of almost like a Netflix, Amazon sort of idea, and working on the pilot for the other Herschel Gordon Lewis project. So that actually holds a lot of promise because this company would get it on the air just like that. So,
well, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and so we'll certainly I'll keep you posted, and it's always a joy to be here.
It's always a joy to have you, sir, and it was great to have you and Herschel on. It's got to be a year ago now, I guess. Maybe over a year. But let's get you back on to do a full episode on Blood Mania when that's nearer release, when people can actually, we can review it and then talk about it and talk about the making of, and then people will actually be able to go out and see it. So that'll be a better time to kind of promote that. And then, keep me posted with anything else that's going on, man. And one of these days I'll make my way up to Edmonton and you can cover me in a bucket of fake blood on camera or something.
Oh, sure. Well, we could decapitate you. We could do all sorts of things as long as you're willing to, undergo the head casting and whatever else. I will
do anything. I will literally do anything. So, well, look, it's been a pleasure. Have we said everything that you wanted to say about Ash vs. Evil Dead?
Basically, yeah. If you haven't watched the series, watch it. It's very worthwhile. If you're a fan of the horror genre, if you're a fan of gore, you like to be scared, you like to laugh, then you can't miss.
Awesome, sir. Although it's not strictly a movie, it is based on a movie, I want the After Movie Diner to be the place that everyone goes to get their Ash vs. Evil Dead goodies. And although, of course, there'll be other websites around the world that will also have that good stuff, I hope my take on things will draw people over to the site and also to the series because... I want it promoted.
I think it will, John, because your enthusiasm is clearly evident. So, and that's half the battle.
Well, thank you very much, James, and thank you for being part of this celebratory Ash vs. Evil Dead podcast. Keep an eye out on the After Movie Diner for week in, week out reviews of the show as it takes place. And also look out for Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Mania. You can find out all about it at bloodmania.ca. And if you feel like reading some great zombie reviews, check out zombiemovieguide.blogspot.com, where James has sat through some real shit for your pleasure.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
All right, man. Look, have a great evening.
Thanks for having me, John. It's always a pleasure.
No worries. Take care, Chief.
Take care, my friend.
Well, back in 2011, I find a movie going to see. A film by Jim Jarmusch starring Iggy Pop and me. But when the show was over, I had nowhere to go, so I ended up in a bar, sipping my bourbon and feeling low. One night, this wild-looking guy called Frank came over and asked me why I looked so sad as I drank. I told him about my post-movie blues, and then I saw the light in his glass eyes. He told me to go to the After Movie Diner. I'm surprised you don't know there's no place finer. Come on now, let's go. Well, Mr. Jon Cross, well, he's a man. He's a man with a beard and a man with a plan. Yeah, yes. With Jim and John and Madam Mark, tune in to Fletch Cobbler to start. Yes, and reviews, opinions, interviews, comedy and news, Don Doler and his films and George Stover at the After Movie Diner. Now it's 5 years old. There's nowhere finer. That's the place to go. Oh, the After Movie Diner. It's where I go. Oh, that After Movie Diner. It's one hell of a show. I just killed that rattlesnake with skillet pan.